Have you just graduated from a coding bootcamp? Today, I'm going to show you how to get your first software development job. Before we begin, if you're just starting out and learning how to code, go to coderfoundry.com/job roadmap. From there, we can take you from zero, where you're at today, to getting your first job as a software developer. That's coderfoundry.com/job roadmap. So first off, I'd like to congratulate you on getting out of or finishing a coding bootcamp. You've acquired a very rare skill in this world. And it's also, not only is it rare, it's in high demand. Now, you may not know this, but software development has 1%, less than 1% unemployment in the US. So you have a skill that you've acquired that is in super high demand. Now what you need to do is actually participate in that job market by getting your first development job. Now, you may be very afraid right now because you're wondering, like, can I pass a technical interview? What kind of questions are they going to ask me? And can I remember all those things during that interview process? Can I do this on demand with a snap of my finger? And it's one of the only jobs that we interview for where they ask you really hard or difficult questions that you just got to take out of your short-term memory and display it on demand. And sometimes you're nervous and you're sweating, you're doing all these things, and you don't always perform like you want to. It's a whole lot easier to interview for a regular office job than it is for a tech job, because they'll ask you, are you a nice person? And you say yes, and you get the job, and everyone shakes hands. And then here we ask you, does C# support multiple inheritance? And you're like, I don't know. They didn't teach me that in my boot camp. And so those kind of questions come out and you don't get hired. Now, what I want to talk to you is about your boot camp. Let's say that you graduated from your boot camp and you're thinking, did my boot camp trick me? Is my boot camp not very good? And you end up pointing fingers back to your education process or back to your teacher. And what I want you to do is, let's remove that from our head. Let's say the boot camp was bad and the teacher was bad and the experience wasn't great. But you walked out of there with something. Let's use what you have and let's turn that into a job. Kind of push away the negative feelings or the negative connotations that you may have, and let's focus positively on the future. Because we do have a student that graduated from Coder Foundry here that he struggled through our class. He was probably not the A student but somewhere down in the middle. When he was looking for a job, he came back to us and said, hey, you tricked me. Everyone that's come out here has a college degree and I'm just a high school graduate and I don't have a job. And we told him, I said, keep coding, keep focused on the process, keep interviewing, and keep doing it. And right before Christmas, he got his first job as a software developer. So what I'm going to show you in this video is the process that we teach at Coder Foundry, but more importantly, the process that worked for this individual. Even if you're not in the top of your class, you're somewhere in the middle, you can use these techniques to get a job as a software developer. And guess what? I believe everyone should do this within 6 weeks of graduation. And if you're not, I'm going to give you the steps that you need to correct in order to get that result that you want when you're looking for a job. But the first thing I need you to do is put away the negative thoughts. Okay, if your boot camp is bad, so what? The teacher is bad, so what? If you think there's ageism, sexism, racism, and all these factors are against you and no one will hire you, I'm going to show you how to get that first software development job, even if all of those barriers I just mentioned are true. So stick with me and let's get that first software job. I'm going to assume a couple of things that you already have in order to make this process work. So if you're not having luck finding a job as a software developer after getting out of your boot camp, maybe a couple of these apply to you. And maybe it's just a little tweaks that you need to make in order to make this process work. But let's go through those right now. So first, let's talk about what you actually learned and know how to do. So we need to make sure the stack or the languages that you learned actually line up what's relevant in your industry. Now, I'm really hoping that you graduate from your boot camp, and if you're interviewing for .NET C# positions, I'm hoping that you have .NET and C# on your portfolio. If you have Ruby, and you're interviewing for .NET or C# position, it's going to be tougher because they're going to have to read into your ability to learn yet another language, another stack online. Now, there are a lot of people tell you, hey, it doesn't matter what you learn, but they're probably also got 6 years on the job and they have no problems finding jobs. When you're trying to break in, and that's who I'm talking to here, people looking for their very first software job, and you don't have any kind of relevant experience, and maybe you just graduated from a boot camp and that's all you have, that portfolio, those projects, those stack have to align with the company that you're interviewing for. So if you're using a smaller, less known stack or less used stack, you still have to apply to those jobs that have those open positions. If you have something more well used like a .NET or C#, you have a lot more opportunities, a lot more jobs that you can apply to. So make sure that the stack that you learned aligns with the jobs that you're applying for. And if not, maybe you need to go back and learn a different stack a little bit, learn some more things and build projects like that. Now, while we're on the subject of projects, let's talk about your portfolio. And I think this is a very common mistake that people make, and they can't figure out, why am I not getting a job from my boot camp? And then they start blaming the boot camp or the teacher or whatever. And it's really the projects that you built. I saw a portfolio from a young lady that went from a boot camp. That's not ours, by the way. But her capstone project is hot dog. You basically took an image and you uploaded it, and it would tell you if it's a hot dog or not. Now, if you don't know this, that's actually a joke from Silicon Valley. That's not a professional project that you would want to present to an employer, because it's not serious. It's not. And it's also not entirely relevant to what they do. I met another guy that was trying to get in our boot camp here that already had a full-blown application written, a mobile app written. And I asked him the question, like, why are you here? He says, I can't find a job. And I was like, what does your mobile app do? And he said, well, it finds free climbers. And he was showing me this app that's fully functional. And so you use this app to find other climbers in your area as a group to go climb with. And so what I told him was, I said, the problem with it is not necessarily the app or anything like that. It's probably because the audience didn't understand, A, what it's supposed to do, B, the problem it's solving, and 3, if they don't know anything about climbing, they just think, well, that's a dumb idea or that's a dumb thing. And then that gets translated or transferred to the interviewee. If they think the project's dumb, then they think the applicant isn't that smart. And so what you need to do is make sure your projects solve professional business problems. That's why here at Foundry, we teach a bug tracker and managing your finances. 2 things that those people most definitely use on a daily basis. They understand the problem. When they see it, they can judge it whether it's good or bad. And they're not trying to figure out, like, is finding climbers entirely relevant to me? Or do I care if this picture's a hot dog or not? I actually don't. We actually do things here to solve actual business problems. So make sure that your portfolio projects are serious professional business apps and not toys and games or in domains that's really hard to understand or not entirely relevant to what they do. The other thing that I think I see people make a lot is, if they don't get a job right away from a boot camp, they just quit coding. And here's what you have to do. You have to keep coding. We say this all over and over again to Foundry students. You must be committed to your craft. In other words, like, you continually code because it's fun, you're passionate, and something you like to do. So you have to keep coding, which means you're going to build new apps, new projects, and you're going to continually add to this portfolio, make professional projects that are in the stack aligned with the interviewer, and then finally keep coding. Don't let your skills go away because you just quit working on it. Don't give up. Continually interview. Now, if you're applying directly to jobs, submitting your resumes, I'm here to tell you, you're wasting your time. You need to work with recruiters. But if you're not working with a recruiter, you need to start doing it. So let me define what I mean when I'm talking about recruiters. I'm talking about third-party recruiters, not the ones that are working for the corporation in the HR department. These are people that call the companies for you on your behalf. And I'm really surprised that a lot of people don't know this, but they don't, is that these IT recruiters work for you without a fee. It is free for them to work with you. They get paid or compensated through the companies that they place you with. And so here's the little known secret. When a job gets posted, that posting goes out, and the recruiters will call before you submit your resume through Indeed or Monster or Dice or whatever. And so you're really fighting an uphill battle against a very professional, well-oiled machine where they're really shoving down 20, 30, 40 resumes into HR, or even the internal recruiter's face and saying, I've got these candidates, please look at them. And they look at those first. And then yours doesn't get through. And sometimes it doesn't get through because of resume scanners or things that are on your resume that don't line up with the automated processes they have. And then the recruiter's simply emailing these over to these people and they're looking at them. You're suffering from the automated process and the fact that they're probably not going to look at that because the recruiter they know Sally in HR and they know John in HR and they have a professional relationship. They go to lunch and all these things happening and you have no chance by doing it that way. So let's dive deep in how do we get into that process? How do I get my resume into the recruiter's hands so that I can be on top of the stack just like everyone else is? So this process I just described is likely foreign to you, or you're thinking that it's not available to you. Sure, there's recruiters. I've seen Jerry Maguire, but that's for wide receivers in the NFL or point guards in the NBA or executives at the largest tech companies in the world. No, it exists for every person in the world that knows how to code. And when I talk about these recruiting firms, we're talking about multi-billion-dollar organizations. And this is why it doesn't work for you, is because you're going against that machine. When you're sending in your resume to this company, there are people that have already called into the HR or the dev lead or whatever, and they've already presented candidates to them. And you're interviewing or trying to get an interview really late in the process. That job has already been posted to the recruiting firms, and they just posted it on the public job boards, but they're probably already interviewing. And so what you have to do is you have to get inside that machine, that process, and stop doing this on your own and work with recruiters. But here's the cool thing. This is available to you even as a junior dev. You can get an agent, someone that will call 50, 100 companies for you, and you don't have to do that. And you don't have to pay for it either because they're compensated with the companies, and that's very important. So if you're not working with recruiters, I'm going to show you how you break into that process so that we can shortcut this 6-week effort to get a job. And this is the primary secret for this, is work with recruiters. So my first piece of advice is start early. So if you're watching this and then you're in the middle of your boot camp, a 12-week boot camp per se, you need to start this at week 7. If you're out of your boot camp and you've graduated already, you need to start today. So the earlier you start, the quicker you're going to find a job. So start early. So what you need to do is, if you've built a project, you need to demo that project online on your social media profiles, but not just any social media profile. You need to do this on LinkedIn. Now you're probably thinking, what is LinkedIn? Okay, LinkedIn is a social media for professionals. And you're like, well, I've already got Snapchat and I'm already on my DMs on Instagram and I've got a Facebook account. LinkedIn is your professional resume. And now here's what you don't know. Recruiters almost exclusively work inside of LinkedIn. So if they can't find you on LinkedIn, you might as well be invisible, okay? It's in a very rare case where they're gonna hit you up in Instagram or one of your other profiles to see if you want a job. They're gonna look at your LinkedIn profile. This means that your development title must be on point. It must say what you're doing because that's how they're searching for it. They're searching by title. So it needs to say web developer or full stack web developer. Hot tip, don't put junior in front of that. You'll probably get screened out. Just put full stack web developer and let them slot you in where they think you're at. Now, when I say start early, you can also use the video stuff inside of LinkedIn to do a whiteboard session, record yourself with your phone or whatever, and demo something like FizzBuzz, reverse a string, or something like that. You can also demo your capstone project. If it's professional, please don't show is hot dog on LinkedIn, but show a professional level project that you can demo right to the screen and people will go in there and look at it and watch it. And it's going to set you apart above everyone else doing this right now. So start early, demo your projects, show your professional projects using the video features built into LinkedIn, and be on LinkedIn. Now, the other thing too I want you to be very careful with is have a professional profile picture, not like your prom picture or you're in your prom dress or your tuxedo or your dress or whatever, but a pro level professional headshot that you can go get done or do it yourself or find someone that can shoot you something like that. And second, only promote professional content inside of LinkedIn. This isn't a place where you show the funny cat video or anything like that. Just show your stuff about coding, your stuff about your projects, and just promote yourself in that way. Let your Twitter account, your Facebook account, your Instagram can be for the fun stuff that you're doing. So if you're on vacation in Barbados, you don't need to show that unless you're coding, okay? Show coding stuff in there. Stay professional, demo your projects, talk about code, and recruiters will find you if you have the right job title, which should be full stack web developer or web developer or something like that. Leave off the title junior and just do that right now as you're watching it, and we can shortcut this effort in finding a job. So the second tip is contact individual recruiters directly. So this is how you do that. You go through, search for IT recruiting firms on LinkedIn, you find the people that work there, and you find the recruiter that's working in your area, and then you reach out to them on LinkedIn or call them directly. They should have their phone and their email right there because they want to talk to you, and this is what you don't know. They have daily quotas of talking to developers that they need to fill. And guess what? You just may call them directly and they might have a job right then. But here's your goal. Your goal is say, hey, I just want to reach out to you and talk to you. I want to be added to your bench. And what they do is they enter in your information, your resume and everything into their database. So when these jobs come up, you're automatically matched. And then they can send you an automatic email. Hey, looks like we've got a job available in this area. It looks like your skills match. Please reach out to me. You call them back. And that's how you start the process. But present yourself confidently as a developer. Don't tell them that you're a junior developer looking for your first job or that you really don't know what you're doing, but you sort of do and you went to this boot camp. You don't need to explain any of that. Just say, I'm a developer, I've got some projects, I've got a portfolio. You want to look at it? And then you start demoing your portfolio and your project to that recruiter. And all your goal is to get added to the bench or inside the recruiting database at that firm. And you can do this more than once with more than one recruiter. You can call multiple firms and get on the benches of all of them. So that is your first goal, is get added to the bench to at least one recruiting firm. And they can be national, local, whatever. National's better, but there's also some, probably in your area, some very strong local IT recruiting firms. You probably listened to my advice. You're probably already doing that and you're knowing, hey, Bobby, that doesn't work like you just said. It's not that easy. I've been trying to call recruiters and they're rude to me. They won't call me back. I can't get them to do anything. Okay, so let's talk about how do you get to that yes. Now, I talked a little bit about it, but let's go in detail. What you need to do is say, okay, I'm a developer. I'm a graduate from Bootcamp ABC. Now, I do have a portfolio that I would like to show you. And so once they realize that you have a portfolio of demonstratable, as we talked about earlier, professional grade projects, not his hot dog, but something that has a database, a login, authorization, all these things, you can sell that recruiter to yourself to them. And they're like, I can sell that. I can sell that portfolio. Now, it can't be just in your GitHub, okay? You can't require the recruiter, hey, go to my GitHub, clone my repo, compile it with Visual Studio 2017, and also get all these dependencies working. No, it needs to be on a public-facing web server where you can go to, johnnysmith.portfolio.com or something like that. And so that way they can very easily, with the click of a URL, just open up Chrome and start looking at your projects. So having a GitHub is cool, and a lot of people say that's all you need. No, it needs to be published somewhere public available where they don't have to compile everything to look at it. So once they start looking at your portfolio and looking at your personal projects that you've built, they're more than likely and probably very likely to work with you. But keep calling these recruiting firms, show them your project until you get that yes and you've been added to the bench. So what I just told you is not theory. These are actual things that our students use every day to get jobs. Now, we had a guy that was coming through Coder Foundry that I would just say that he skewed on the older side. He was probably late 40s, maybe even 50, and probably thinking that's way too old for anyone to break into this job. And so he was calling recruiters on his own, and he commented to us that the recruiters won't call me back, they won't work with me. And we convinced him, well, you just need the next one you talk to, get them to look at your portfolio. And soon as he showed that portfolio to that recruiter, they just said these little words, I can sell that. And now they knew that they could take this person who is older than most, late career switcher person that's trying to switch into IT for the first time, but they had this demonstrable projects of things that they could show, which gave them an artifact to pitch to the company. Otherwise, if you're just pitching the resume, it's really difficult to break in. And that gave the recruiter an artifact, a portfolio, something hands-on that can demonstrate that he could, in fact, code. And it made it very easy for that recruiter to pitch that to the employer, and now he's employed there and has have a very long, successful career as a software developer. Okay, so now what you need to do, you're on the databases of like 5 or 6 recruiting firms. Here's where your work comes in. You need to follow up with your recruiters, and I say that in plural, every week. And you need to call them on the phone. You can keep it short and sweet, but just give them that inbound call and say, hey, you got anything for me? They'll let you know if they do, and if they don't, and that's okay. You're just waiting for that opportunity to come up. And so every Friday or every Thursday, set a time in your calendar and call all of your recruiters back. If you're working with one, just call them back. If you're working with 5, call all 5 of them and say, hey, you got anything for me? Is there anything hot? And so that way, this does a couple of things. Number one, it shows that you're very passionate and very interested in what you're doing and that you're going to break into this your career. So these recruiters are paid on commission. They're like, this guy's going to find a job. He's following up every week, and he's active on social media. He's showing his portfolio to everyone that will see he's eventually going to get a job. I want that commission. The second thing is, if you're at the top of your mind and they like you and you're very polite, then they'll want to work with you more. So the thing that you can't do is if they don't have anything on that Friday, don't get mad at them. Don't yell at them or hang up on them and say, hey, thanks, I'm glad you're looking out for me. You're right if I call you back next week to see if anything has changed. And just stay on that top of mind, be polite, courteous, and professional to the recruiter, and eventually it will work out for you. But also just keep active on LinkedIn as well. Maybe hashtag some people, your LinkedIn post, put that in Twitter, maybe hashtag a company you're looking at or anything like that. Any way that you can get onto someone's radar, you need to do that. But keep coding and keep demonstrating and demoing the things that you can code and call that recruiter every single week until you get that first job. Okay, now the next piece of advice I want to give you is this. Be clear on your needs or things that you have to take a job. Be upfront with that recruiter. That means what city will you work in? What job will you take? How much money do you have to have? And the other thing I want you to be very open to is when you put these needs out to your recruiter, a good recruiter will tell you, you know, that 87.5 that you want as a junior dev probably isn't going to happen. That's more like a 2 to 3 year down the road. So I think I can get you a job at this salary. And it's not that they're trying to undersell you or lowball you. They want to get you the highest possible salary they can because they get paid on the amount that you make. Just know that recruiter is on your side and they're just telling you what the market will bear for your skills. So take that under advisement. Now, let's say that you've done all that and you've worked with your recruiter and you said, I need 50K, and they went out and found you a job for 50K. You got an offer from the company. You passed the interview. I see people do this all the time, and I can't stress this enough. Please, that is not the time to negotiate a raise. And that's what people will do. They'll say, yeah, I'll come for 57. And then somehow they think when the offer comes in, they feel like they want to get that next little nugget of money out of the company, and that's not the time to negotiate. That's already been done. The recruiter has went to the hiring manager and said he'll come in for 50K if you offer him 50K. And you don't know, they may have been trying to offer 47. And you don't know what they had to go through to get you that offer. And then you want to, at the last second, change all of that and make the recruiter go back and renegotiate. That is a very unprofessional and a very career damaging move. Because what you need to do is get that first job. And so don't renegotiate after you get an offer. Second, if you get an offer, don't bail on your recruiter. Take the job and go do the work, and don't bail on your recruiter, because what happens is you can burn a bridge with the recruiter But more than else, you've burned the bridge with the company as well. So you want to be able to work at that company again in the future, maybe, possibly. So to sum it up, 2 things that you need to remember. Don't renegotiate the salary after the offer has been presented, and don't bail on the recruiter by turning everything down. Take the offer, take the job, and go to work. So this is why I'm telling you to take the first job, especially if you're coming out of a boot camp and that's your only education. You need to take the first opportunity that you get where someone will pay you to code. And I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to, even coming out of our boot camp and other people, that they'll get the offer and they'll think, well, that offer's not strong enough for me, and they turn it down. What you don't know is the job market is very fickle. And when that offer comes along, it could be 3 months, 6 months, 7 months later before you get another offer, because we don't know when the next role could open up that's a match for you. So if you get an offer, take the first job offer that you get. Here's what I want you to understand. You can probably talk to people and they're like, you think I'm crazy, and they're saying, wait around for that perfect job. And what I want to tell you, there is no perfect job, and the first job will not be your last job. So let me tell you about a guy named John. John went to a very small town in West Virginia, took a job where he was being paid under what you would call the normal rate for a software developer. But 6 months later, he took a new job that doubled his salary. Doubled. And the only reason he got the big bump in salary is because they looked at his resume and said, someone's paying him to code, and he had actual working experience on his resume. Your first job is to do this, to get 1 year of experience on your resume. That's what it's for, and that's only what it's for. Now, if that first job does happen to turn into the perfect job and you stay for 10 years, fantastic and great. My role, and what to tell you is to get that first job and get 1 year experience. And then once you have 1 year experience, then the world is starting to open up to you and you can be more choosy. Now, what you want to do is take the second job to get paid more. And then you can start thinking about the areas that you want to specialize in. Or I really like DevOps, or I want data science, or I want to do front end, or I want to do back end, or I really like the database, or I want to build mobile apps, or I want to build web dev. You can do all of those things on that second role. The third role is when you're really going to jump into a higher bracket of salary. And what we call that here at Foundry is the road to 100K. Is where can you make 100K as a software developer? Typically, if you're committed to your craft and you've moved around a little bit, increasing your responsibilities and things that you do, you can do that within 3 years. Definitely within 5, you can do that. We have a guy here that made that 100K role happen in 3 years. And trust me, when I say this, I had to talk him into his first role. And he came to my office and he said, I don't want to take this. I want to work at a large company. I didn't really envision this small company environment. And I told him what I'm telling you. I said, take the first job. The first job is not your last job. Think about this. 3 years later, he's in the role that he wants. He's working for in-dash police cars. 3 years later, 100K. And that's what I want from you. But in order for me to get you there, you have to take that first role, regardless of kind of where it is, location, pay, and all those things are kind of irrelevant. The most beneficial thing that you can do is get 1 year of experience on your resume. And that only way you can do that is take that first job. To sum it up, you need a portfolio with professional grade projects. You need to work with recruiters and get on their recruiting database or on their bench. And then when they get you that offer, you need to take the first offer you get to get that 1 year experience. All of this, if you have all of that, can happen within 6 weeks of graduating from your boot camp. I've seen this work for hundreds of our students, and I know it'll work for you. So good luck and keep coding.